Hi, Megan. How's it going?
Going good. How about you, Dustin?
Good. Thanks. Thanks for joining us today to talk about imposter syndrome. Do you want to give
hmm
a quick introduction of yourself?
Sure. My name is Megan. I am a 29-year-old mom of four, stay-at-home mom. Um, Tech and coding is actually a hobby of mine, so this is all completely really new for me. I've only done it, just for fun, dabbling here and there from my
Mhm.
childhood. It, started with building simple web pages and, kind of going through that and then peeking at the coding behind, what web pages I use typically day to day. And then in high school and in college, I took a few classes here and there. And then this year, I finally decided to make that commitment and take it more seriously. So this is the first time that I've actually committed myself to it and, trying to make something of it. So it's been very interesting.
Yeah. And so you're taking the part-time course, right, in Lambda.
hmm
Just finishing up or just getting to your first build week, just finishing up the first unit of your the web unit.
hmm
So
Exactly.
so what did you have any fears leading up to starting the program or wanting to kind of dive in when you started looking for resources to learn?
For me, I have always been into the styling side of things. So HTML
Mhm.
and CSS were the things that I thought I was comfortable with.
Uh-huh.
um, Going into the pre-course work, that was the stuff that I kind of breezed through, and then the JavaScript was completely new to me. I 100% had never seen it before, and it was interesting because that was also when we had several different platforms for the pre-course work.
Hmm.
So I actually got to do the pre-course work, I think like three different times.
Oh
But I
man.
told myself, I was like, each time I did it, I was like, it's a new way for me to review the code before and the concepts. And I think that actually really, really helped me kind of prepare now for JavaScript now. So
Yeah.
when we finally reached it, and ironically, responsive web design, HTML, CSS, I was pulling my hair out, thinking, that'd be the things that I'd breeze through. And then I got to JavaScript and I actually kind of had a general understanding of it. Of course, when I
Mhm.
sat down and I tried to apply it, it didn't always work out. But I feel like that's part of that imposter syndrome, and, is thinking something, sitting down and realizing, okay, maybe I don't quite know it as well as I
Yeah.
thought I did, busting through that wall of, breaking your code and everything, and then
Mhm.
reaching that aha moment after. So it's just been a whirlwind for me. Things I think will go my way don't go my way. Things that I think will completely throw me in a loop, I'm like, oh my gosh, I actually think I kind of get it. So it's been
Yeah.
very interesting.
Yeah. So before you reach that aha moment though, what have you experienced any kind of fear or doubt when you're going through those struggles, and what does that feel like to you personally?
So for me, my background, like I said, is not tech or anything like that. It's actually restaurant. So I'm constantly going back and forth, like, okay, do I really, am I really cut out for this? Because I will be sitting there thinking and looking at my code. And luckily, pair programming is such a lifesaver. I think
Mhm.
without that, I think I might have quit by now, for like not even joking.
Yeah.
Because of the fear of, like you said, you're just looking at the screen, thinking you know what you're doing, and it's just not working, and then you show it to somebody else, and then they find that missing semicolon or that bracket,
Yeah.
or you spelled the method keyword wrong or something,
Uh-huh.
and then you're like, okay, I think, it's not as far off as I thought it was, so that it's that fear of thinking that you don't know it at all, but you're actually closer than you really think you are.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a very common experience. I mean, I've faced that so many times where I'm like, I know I'm doing this correctly, but it's not working. Maybe I'm
hmm
not doing it correctly. Maybe I didn't understand this at the level I thought I understood it. And then, yeah, those thoughts, they creep in, and your mind starts telling you you're not good enough, you don't understand this, um, and pushing through that uh, is the important part. Like finding. So it sounds like you have found the way that you help yourself push through those moments is through reaching out to others, peer programming like that. How does that help you?
So even on Twitter is like the community, it's having that support group of other people who have been there, and they remind you, look, this is a constantly evolving industry, and, the concepts that you're learning, it's going to always be growing. You don't ever get comfortable, like to have that constant reminder that if you're really going to take this seriously, get comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I think that might have even been said, by some of the instructors and people, I hear that all the time now. If you're uncomfortable, that's good. That means you're learning, and that's a good thing, So I'm learning that the fear, it's not a bad thing, and that reaching out to other people to hear their stories, and then, just realizing that community that's there, it's been amazing. Like that's just an amazing resource and support network and everything. It's just been invaluable to me, both like on Twitter and Lambda, and just any way possible to find that support. Even at home, I have to say that those weeks that I have that extra support at home, I feel like I can grasp these concepts a little bit more because mentally I'm more there, so it's a mental game, definitely, so yeah.
Yeah, some really great points there. Reaching out to others for, I think there's a couple things. First, it kind of they can help you realize that you're doing things right. You are understanding it, even when you're telling yourself you're not good enough and you don't understand it. But then also reaching out to others, you see that they're having the same struggles. You're not alone in that. Have you found that helps, seeing other people having the same questions and struggles as you?
I definitely think that helps, because then you don't feel like you're alone.
Yeah.
And that's another big thing, is especially in our part-time, cohort, there's such a wide variety of experiences, and just people who pick it up instantly and others who don't necessarily grasp it as fast. So I think being honest about where you're at in your journey helps other people. It's just always about lifting each other up, I think, at this point.
Yeah.
And just taking that time to kind of, remind each other where we all started, and that's what I love about the instructors as well, is that some of them even take up a whole new instrument just so they can remind themselves of how uncomfortable it was to, exactly. Exactly. Shout out to Josh. And that's inspiring to remind yourself that, hey, if I push through this, I can get there eventually. But once I get there, it doesn't mean I'm going to stay there either. It's going to constantly be that way, so.
Get comfortable being uncomfortable. I love that. That's awesome. Cool. So tell me a little bit about did you have any hesitations as a mom coming into this industry?
I will be honest, I feel like every day I sit down, I feel like that. I'm feeding my son. I have another behind me, standing on my chair trying to chat with everybody, and I'm trying to type away, so it's a juggle, even just, and that's why I said having that support even outside is so important, but on Twitter, there's the hashtag Moms Can Code, Moms Who Code, and that alone is another just inspiring group of people that constantly motivate me, because even in that hashtag alone, you meet people who are up there, have been doing this for a very long time, people who are just starting out, and also people who are like me, started in a different industry and are completely leaving that industry and starting new, and at so many different age levels and life, different parts of their lives. So if they can do it, I think anybody can really, really do it,
Yeah, absolutely. I think you're a huge inspiration to me.
Thank you.
I've watched your journey and followed you on Twitter, and I think finding that community of people who are kind of in the same situation as you is really important. Twitter's a great medium to find that. At Lambda School, there's a lot of people that will have similar experiences, but yeah, finding and building that community definitely helps.
Mm-hmm.
What have you felt any of that fear or the imposter syndrome about coming into the tech world as a woman, as a mom? I mean, it's predominantly male, right? Um, the way the world is today, motherhood isn't as big of a priority as it's been. Talk to me about what how you feel breaking into the tech community, into the tech industry as a woman, as a mom, as all of that.
Ironically, the people who pushed me to make this plunge were men.
Oh yeah, awesome.
Yes. So it was my husband and his really good friend who really encouraged me to do it. And I mean, I think it's because they just see that the qualities that moms and women have are things that can really contribute to this industry as a whole. And I think part
Mhm.
of it has to deal with the fact that it is ever evolving, ever changing. And I think having kind of people who, like we said, lift each other up and can kind of contribute in a positive way kind of helps to make sure that things are constantly moving and constantly being innovative. And that's how you challenge each other, I feel like, in a positive way,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
is so it has been kind of scary, and that's why Twitter has been one of my really good friends, especially those first few weeks,
Hmm.
and just following other women who have been, like I said, on that same journey. Because I think especially when it comes down to that job search and having to find what fits perfectly, and I know it will never fit perfectly, so kind of hearing people's different, I guess their journey too, and
Yeah,
how they're balancing it, things that they've done to kind of, I guess, with current employers or what they're looking for. I think that's kind of what's worrying me a little bit more down the line, is how I'll juggle that when I actually get to that point.
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
because even right now, trying to just learn it at home, it's one thing. So I'm just a lot of it, just throwing it up to kind of the universe and God and seeing where it all takes me, in a sense, and that's why the community has been so important to me.
Yeah. And that even those thoughts are a little bit of imposter syndrome, right? Like, when I get to the job search, is it going to be hard? Is it going to be?
Is somebody going to be okay and with willing to work
Yeah,
with what I've got? And yeah.
yeah. There will be that is
Yeah.
that's imposter syndrome right there.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you had any like really meaningful, helpful interactions on Twitter that have gotten you through, or even on in the community at Lambda that have gotten you through an especially hard time over the last few
I
weeks?
think the biggest thing is just any time that you're stuck, just reach out anywhere you're comfortable, whether it's in a
Mm.
Slack channel, whether it is on Twitter or a small PM group. So we actually created a smaller, we call it a study group on
Uh-huh.
Slack. And it started off with just me and a few other people from our small PM group. And then somebody's sibling wanted to join, and we're like, of course you can join. And then somebody said somebody from their other, PM channel wanted to join. And it just builds on it like that. And I think that's what's important for us, is to keep building on that positivity. And
Yeah,
when we get stuck too, that's when you find the resources, and so I think I've never ever once have found or had a problem and had somebody say, we'll figure it out. That's never happened, never ever. As stupid as the question might sound, people are always willing to share resources, share videos, share, anything and everything, and even their own code, so our time, their own time, and that's invaluable too, so
yeah,
I think that's just the biggest thing, is not being afraid to reach out and then just seeing where it can take you. And that's how you meet other people too. That's how I've met everybody, basically.
awesome. And I think that a lot of people will struggle with the fear of reaching out to others. And I think
Yes.
that's great advice. I mean, it doesn't matter how small and significant, seemingly
Mm-hmm.
stupid your question sounds. That's just your mind telling you. That's the imposter syndrome telling
Yeah.
you that it sounds that way. So
Mm-hmm.
as soon as you reach out, I've found, like you said, people are willing to help. You're going to find resources. If that fear quickly leaves you, and you're like, oh
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this is the way that I'm going to learn this thing, how I'm going to grow. Yeah, it's a huge help, but scary what to face that initial thing.
Definitely, definitely. I think especially like in our Slack channel, there's like over 100 people, in each of the cohorts and stuff. So
Hmm.
it definitely is intimidating. But I mean, nobody's gonna know where you're at, or nobody's gonna know who you are too, unless
Yeah,
you speak up. So
yeah,
for me, I am a social person, and those social interactions are what keep me going.
hmm,
So I think that's probably one of my biggest advices. Don't be afraid. There's nice people out there that won't bite, and who are
yeah.
willing, and so willing to help. So